We came about doing this research because we wanted to look specifically at how young people actually lead other young people in volunteer organisations. We asked them how they create space for new volunteers. We asked them how they link with new volunteers. Then we explored how they engage with these volunteers. We looked at how they started to build identity with volunteers, and then we looked at how they build volunteers up to be leaders in the organisation. We recently discussed our findings with a group of young leaders who had heard all of our findings. Then we had the chance to sit down with them and have a conversation, see what they thought about the findings, see whether they, as young leaders and those who engage with young volunteers, felt that the findings resonated, and how did they feel that our findings had actually tapped into what goes on in their organisation. I know some of you are leading youth-led organisations. What did you think about the fact that someone's actually done some research into that?
A lot of things that we're involved in as youth organisations and being involved in leading them, we take it for granted the way we do things, but it's really valuable to have someone come along and say, oh, this is different to the way it might be perceived by other groups.
What I was excited about was hearing about how young people do the succession stuff really well. So they're innovative in the way that they approach engaging other people, but also in transferring the skills and the responsibility onto others, so that then those people can actually take up those roles in a leadership capacity. And I think we have a lot to learn from that in sort of non-youth-led organisations.
What are the boundaries that young people need, want, like to have? What's the flexibility that they need, want and like to have? What's your experience of that balance of not autonomy, flexibility?
As long as there's a defined objective, you know what it's going to be doing or how it's going to be helping, or that sort of, that creates the boundary.
When people say, like, young people, they do episodic volunteering, they're in there for a couple of months and they're out. The fact is, a lot of older people do that too, right? So we have older people who are sort of retired a little bit. They've got several different volunteering commitments that they're involved in. They've only got a little bit of time to give within a short time frame. It's exactly the same context, and what we need to be doing is being more responsive to supporting how they can get involved and bring their creativity to that.
What we find is crucial is having human contact all the way through the experience, and that provides context and that checks up on how you're feeling about it and what issues you've encountered, and is the transport working out for you, and continue to maintain that and keep changing, keep adapting as the volunteer gets more experience, and that's what helps lead them into those leadership positions that we as youth organisations rapidly need people to move into.
And what defines a good culture and how do you create it?
I think with us, having those clear objectives and having people come together because of their passion about a certain thing, whatever that might be, and that in itself, just building relationships based on the fact that you've already got this common ground, that is such a strong connecting point, and that carries through the rest of the relationships that they'll make, and that will draw other people into the organisation.
One really important thing I think as part of it is being conscious of all the groups and making, what we've done is to actively make lots of different cultures, lots of different, very good gender mix, very good diversity, religious diversity, in all kind of areas. And as an organisation, we're naturally inclusive of lots of different kinds of projects and areas in our community. But to actively have that represented at all levels in the leadership, and right down through our volunteers and the groups that we partner with in the community.
But I think introducing new elements can be a really great way of changing that culture. So you actually find, you're creating space, if you like, for people to bring their passions and their strengths to you. So if you can play a role within your organisation of creating those spaces, and then those spaces are filled by these amazing, passionate, incredible people who actually demonstrate the worth of doing that, then I think you actually naturally move that organisation along. It's one way of doing it naturally. I think that's the way that the approach that you guys are taking.
Tash, you had some cool examples of how you can link with people in a different way, an innovative kind of way.
Balloons. Actually, it's our main tool, just something that we do. Instead of standing there at a stand and hoping that people take flyers or free lollies, making people balloons, having people come up to you and say, oh, can I have a sword? And then you start a conversation. So just having random interesting things to offer. It's not saying we're asking something of you initially.
How do you describe that feeling of being a part of something?
Interesting question. I don't know about describing the feeling of it, but I think it's a lot of stuff we talked about making making space for people, the strengths, the passions, allowing people to have ownership over something, which I think is incredibly important. So actually they're coming in to do a real job, and they know that this thing that's going to happen is dependent on them doing a real job. You know what I mean? So has like manifested outcomes. And when they come to the end of that and they've actually succeeded and played a role in that success, it's so powerful for people. What was so exciting for me about the research is the learnings that the broader community can have from youth-led organisations. For me, that's the big one. So it's about what are the amazing things that they're doing within their organisations that are working really well, but other organisations that are having a lot of issues structurally or in terms of change can learn from.
It recognises that young people are doing amazing stuff, and they're not, invalids sitting on the couch and playing video games. They're actually out there in their communities, and they want to be given the tools to be able to exercise their passions and their values. And if this research helps other organisations to get into that a little bit deeper and create those avenues and spaces for young people to do those things, I think that can only be a positive thing.
Now we're going into the second stage of research, which I think is going to be really exciting. We're going into a stage where we will be testing some of our findings. So we'll be going to organisations and individuals who are working in this space with young volunteers and just seeing how do these findings stand up in practice. Second phase of that will be working with traditional organisations who want to engage with young volunteers and seeing if we can help them to make some change in their organisation and implement some of our findings. And finally, we'll be looking at the policy implications of the research that we've performed, how that will impact on volunteering policy and policy that engages young volunteers.